Well, hello, and anyone who's online, hi. My name is Laura Kelly, like was said, and I just wanted to go over a little bit about what we'll do today. So on our agenda, I'll tell you a little bit about me. We'll go over some definitions to make sure that we're all speaking the same language before we start. Talk about audience and who your audiences are and what you can learn from them and how to get to them. Talk about the difference between psychographics and demographics. Talk a little bit about the relationship economy, how we can test out what we're doing, a little bit about social, and then we'll have time for questions. But by all means, please jump in if there's anything that you want to know throughout. So like Allison said, I'm the Senior Communications Manager for the Office of the CTO at Dick's Sporting Goods. I graduated from Tepper with my MBA in 2019, and I'm currently working on my PhD in Media and Communications at IUP. My dissertation is on computer-mediated communications and their impact on company culture. So really looking at how this digital world, how these dispersed workforces are impacting how we all work together. So just to make sure that we are all on the same page, when I say KPI, I mean key performance indicator. That's that quantifiable thing that we're measuring. If I say lift, I mean an increase or improvement. I'll use follower and fan interchangeably, and this is used to describe someone who likes or follows a social media page. And engagement is any kind of action on a social media page from a follower. So that could be a like, that could be sharing the post, that could be commenting. So something that I want you to think about for your own businesses, for your own purposes, are who is your audience? Who are they? Who are the people that you want to be reaching out to? And then where are they? So a great example I have for this, my husband's company, they are looking to hire entry-level manufacturers, right? And so their idea was, well, let's have a LinkedIn campaign. But is that where entry-level manufacturers are, right? Or so they're what, 19, 20-year-olds? Maybe they're on TikTok, maybe they're on Instagram, right? So really figuring out who your audience is and where they are. And then what do you want from them? What is it that you want them to do? Do you want them to buy a product? Do you want them to spread the word about your organization? Like my husband's company, do you want them to apply for a job? What is it that you want them to do? And so finally, what information can you get from them, right? As you're using digital, the thing about it that's so different from a more traditional print media is the data that you can collect from your audience. And how can you use that data to expand your audience, to get them to do those things you want to do, and so forth. So one of the things that I like to do is look at Pew Research, right? All of this information is out there for you that can tell you who is where, all of this demographic information. So you can see that in the US, 78% of men are using YouTube in some way, right? You can see what age group is using what. You can see what races are using what income's using what, right? And you can really focus your efforts then on the areas that are going to make the most impact for you. Right. I think a lot of times people want to be on the cutting edge. They want to do whatever like is sexy right now. Right. But TikTok might not be the right place for you if that's not where your audience is. Right. It's not going to be the right place for you if that's not where your audience is. So really figuring out who you're going after and then coming to a place like Pew Research and taking a look at where those folks are is going to be really impactful for you. So this, I just wanted to show, these are two people that I follow on Instagram, right? They are women around my same age. They are, going through things like what to cook for dinner, design and shopping for the home, right? These are things that are interesting to me, and they know that. They're aware of who their audience is and where they are. They're not posting this type of thing on LinkedIn, right? They're putting this on Instagram where 35-year-old women are spending their time. So I said, what can you do with your audience, right? What can you get from them? And one of the things that is really great is this lookalike audience. So if you already have those people in your database, you can target people who look like them, right? So you can go in, enter their email addresses, and then they'll create a database for you to target based on that. So if you have an ad for something, it can be targeted to people who are very similar to the people who have already bought into whatever it is that you're doing. Now, you have to be careful with this if there are any regulations within your industry. Universities, for example, can't do this because of regulations about using student data, right? But you know, the Pittsburgh CLO, they absolutely can. They can certainly go and use their customer database to market their shows to other people who would be interested in it. So take a look at what is legal within your industry, and then you know, this is a great way to grow that audience. So I also want you to think about, where can you be a thought leader? So I teach an intro to PR class as part of my PhD work. And one of the things we were talking about in class yesterday was starting to tell your story right now, not waiting until you are so far down the path that you have that finished product and then you start, right? What can you be a thought leader on right now? So let me see, what might be next. Yeah, so this is something that we just did with Dix. I worked with one of my teammates on this on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn, you can write long form articles, right? And they get a lot of really great traction. And it's something that, again, you can put yourself out there. You don't necessarily have to be selling, right? But showing that you have this thought leadership. Also think about who your cheerleaders can be, right? What organizations can you get to help you get your message out? So if you're already, again, working with a customer and they're doing really great stuff, they're a big fan of yours, how can they help you get that message out? Can they be a thought leader? Can you get the head of their company to write something on your behalf? Who are your allies who can help you tell this story? And then what offline things can you repurpose for online things, right? So maybe you're working on a physical product. Well, film that, right? Film a test, or film. What can you do to create that online piece of content that you can share? Also, and I don't have it here, but thinking about repurposing things, right? So, you know, we'll shoot video and we might have a 2-minute video, right? Can we also cut that into a 15-second Instagram story? Can we also, you know, use that? Can we grab stills from it? So really thinking about how you can get the most bang for what you're doing. So we talked a little bit about demographics, right? That you can go onto Pew Research and really take a look at where folks are based on those demographic information, like age and income and things like that. But something that is starting to become more and more relevant is psychographics. And this is thinking about what makes your customer unique, what makes you you, right? So what their personalities are, their lifestyles, their interests, their opinions, their values, right? These are those qualifiable things. So with that, again, think about who your audience is. What brings them all together? Is it that you are a sustainability company and they all really care about the environment, right? And then it doesn't matter if they're 65 or 25 because they have that commonality. Thinking about this is really going to help you when it comes to what we call the relationship economy. So from the end of World War II to the last 10 years or so, we've been in the consumer economy, right? People, companies make something and we buy it. But customers are starting to care more. They're starting to get their news more, right? Back at the end of World War II, people were only getting their news for 30 minutes a night, right? Now it's on our phones, it's everywhere. So we can really choose what we care about. So we want to work with companies who care about that too, right? And we want to make sure that our attitudes and beliefs line up with those companies. So that comes down to culture, right? And it needs to be consistent across everything. And so what I mean by that is, if they talk to someone that you work with, someone who's on your team, they're getting the same message that they would on their landing page or via email or in social. And it's a consistent message throughout. And it's really important too that all of these things are talking to each other. So I was at a marketing conference right before COVID and sat in on a session about the relationship economy. And the presenter said that he had been engaged to be married and had a wedding website on The Knot, right? Well, they canceled the wedding. So they took it all down. He canceled the invitations, canceled all of those things. But a week after the scheduled wedding date, he got an email from The Knot saying, congratulations, now it's time to order your thank you cards, right? Because these weren't talking to each other. So he didn't feel like a person anymore, right? He felt like a number, like a product, right? And that's not how people want to feel. They want to feel like you can personalize their experience. And the thing about that really gives me pause is he told me this story. He told me in a room of people this story 4 years ago, and I'm still telling it because it just baffles me, right? And it's that type of thing that can hurt a company's reputation. So as you are thinking about who your audience is, what your message is to them, what you want them to do, right? There are really low cost ways to test these things out, right? So I have a few things set up here. I have a Squarespace screenshot and then a Facebook ads manager. Try things. Set aside what, $100 maybe to figure out what is going to work for you and set those KPIs. So what are going to be the things that you measure that you are going to count as successful? So for example, say you are a t-shirt company and you're selling t-shirts with Pittsburgh screen prints on them, right? So you say, okay, well, I'm probably going to want to target people who live in the Pittsburgh area. And, let's say they're 25 to 34. That's my market, right? So you might try that on Facebook. You might go on and say, okay, here's the t-shirt. I'm going to try this. I'm going to spend $50, see how many click-throughs to the website I get. And that's going to be what I consider, my KPI, what I'm going to measure. And you might come back and say, oh, 25 to 34-year-olds aren't on Facebook anymore. They're on these other sites. So I'm going to try the same thing. Maybe it wasn't the ad, maybe it was the place. So I'm going to spend $20 on Instagram to do it. And you can try these things without spending a lot of money to see if it works. So the Squarespace example, I was at a conference and it was like a bed in a box company was speaking, right? And when they had first started, they were playing with their guarantee, right? The sleep X amount of nights. And if you don't like it, return it for your money back. So they built a quick $18 a month Squarespace site to test it. They had, 100 or so mattresses ready to go. So they figured out all right, well, we're going to say that it's X amount of dollars for this mattress and that you have 30 days, right? No one was buying it at X amount of dollars. So they lowered the price $25. People were buying it. But then they found, oh, they didn't need to give people 30 days. If they didn't like it, they were sending it back after 10. So they could change that to 2 weeks and get that inventory back into rotation, right? And it was, you know, an $18 a month. They did it for like 3 months to be able to figure that out, right? So again, just like with telling your story, starting and telling that story early, test things early too, so that you're able to really figure some things out and see what is going to work on your end. Something that is super helpful as well to see what's working, what's bringing you the bang for your buck, is UTM parameters. So within Google Analytics, you can track where everything is from. So for example, if you're trying to get people to your website and you have, you're going to post that website in your email signature, in your Twitter bio, you're going to post it on Facebook, you're going to have it on an Instagram story. If you tag each of those separately, right? So you can have UTM underscore Facebook, UTM underscore, you know, Instagram, whatever it is. When you look back into your Google Analytics, you can see where those people are clicking from, right? So then again, you can decide, is this worth my time? I know a lot of you are starting businesses, right? So you're the business person and you're the engineer and you're the marketer and you're HR, right? You're all of the things. So this is really important to make sure that you're spending your time where it's going to be impactful. And I think that this is a really great way to do that. So just a little bit about different sites. I'm sure you know most of this, but I thought it was useful information to have. Who is where? So Facebook, of course, it's still the big one. What's really funny to me, I asked my students who are all, 18 to 22, I asked them, where they get their information, and they said TikTok. And I said, where do your parents get it? And they all said in unison, Facebook, right? So where folks are is changing. Although 25 to 34-year-olds still make up the most common age demographic, but they are starting to shift. Some of the things that I think are really interesting is when people are using social media sites, right? So midweek between 1 and 3 p.m. And you're getting an 18% higher engagement on Thursdays and Fridays. So what is really interesting about that is that can really help you again with figuring out when you should post things. So in the Insights tab of a business page, you can see when people are on and at what time, right? So you can schedule your posts to hit when your audience is there. Again, it's about knowing who your audience is and where they are. So this will be different for everybody, right? Like that's the average, but you can look and get very specific to your own audience. Same thing with YouTube. So, people use YouTube as a search engine. The last I checked, it was the second most used search engine after Google, but that might have changed. It might be the most now. And 68% are watching YouTube to help make a purchasing decision, 80% at the beginning of the shopping experience. Organic content is the way to go on this. So your SEO, your search engine optimization, is going to be really important here so that you're not necessarily wasting money on ad dollars, but making sure that you are creating content that matters to your audience.
I have an online question really quick.
Yeah.
Regarding what time to post, do these need to be adjusted for international audiences?
Yeah. So when you are looking at your own specific page, it will tell you based on your local time, but it will be for your whole audience. So for example, if your audience is in the UK and they're all on at noon their time, it's going to tell you 6 a.m. if you're here in Pittsburgh, right? But what that average is saying, it's 1 to 3 p.m. local time. So wherever that audience is, that like right after lunch, you're hitting your slump in the day, that's when folks are taking a break and getting on Facebook. Thank you. Instagram, right? Instagram stories are consumed at a higher rate on Instagram compared to Snapchat and Facebook. So TikTok, right? Same thing. Like you're really getting these stories over static posts. And the thing about that, starting to change a little bit, but the thing with stories is they can be really low production value, right? It's just your phone, right? Talking to your audience. That seems to be what people want to engage with versus these more produced looking things that would go into your feed itself. So again, it's a low barrier to entry to start using Instagram stories in this way. And again, it's how you can build that relationship, right? You can show the human part of your business, the humans behind the business, who they're working with. And again, you can go in to Sprout Social, all of these different things. I have the links on the back of the last slide of this, and I can share the deck with everybody that has all of these different pieces of data with who is where and why. Twitter, sorry for the issue at the bottom there. Twitter is being used by 30 million US users every day, right? It's where a lot of people are getting their news. It's where a lot of people are finding out that initial thing and then looking elsewhere. What's interesting, 80% of US tweets are coming from 10% of users. So it's a minority of folks who are really the majority of the voices being heard. But Twitter users spend 26% more time with ads than other platforms. So they're engaging with ads a lot more. So again, thinking about what makes sense for your audience and where it makes sense to spend money, Twitter might be the right place because of the engagement. So LinkedIn, this one is a great one when you're trying to break into a B2B relationship, a business to business relationship, right? This is where folks who are making more money, they have a higher income, they're spending more time on LinkedIn than other places. People with higher levels of education are spending more time on LinkedIn. So again, thinking about who that audience is, where you want to be. And the thing about LinkedIn as well, the longer form content is really engaged with on LinkedIn, and it's not really being utilized. I showed you that article that we just did. It was a long form content piece, and it's only like 10% of users are taking advantage of that. But the engagement, the time on that is way higher than on just a regular post. Do you have a question? No? Okay. So again, really something to think of. 45% of readers are in upper level positions, right? So if you're really looking to get involved with a business, those decision makers are on LinkedIn. And then TikTok, right? The sixth app for consumer spending. People are spending money on TikTok. This is where, again, my students, they're getting all of their information from TikTok, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, that is how it is, right? So really taking a look and seeing how to make that work. I see a Duolingo Al in the back there. They do a fantastic job on TikTok. Like if you want to see how to give a brand a personality, look at what they're doing. And what's really interesting about it is if you go the whole way back to the beginning of their feed, their first few videos were very educational and they did fine. But as soon as they introduced the owl and made it funny, made it a character, made it engaging, those numbers went through the roof, right? And it works for them. So that's something to think about as well, right? What works for you? Wendy's is a great example on Twitter. They, just go after their followers. They go after their competitors. They're really funny on Twitter. When I ran social media for Carnegie Mellon, that would not have worked, right? So really figuring out who your audience is and what they want to hear. So like I said, here are all the sources. I can share this so you have it. And I'll leave this up so everyone can feel free to be in touch if you have any additional questions. But if you have questions now or anything that you're thinking about that you want to share with the group, I'd love to hear it.
Do we have any questions?
I have one. I'm running a search campaign right now. What are some telltale signs for a search campaign that you should be mindful of? And the reason why I ask that, like I came over here, I have a startup that's associated with, was associated with vegetables. We graduated in 2021. Running a search campaign just to get more traction in terms of inbound leads. We have a lot of outbound leads that come in. They're trying to drive more engagement. So what are some telltale signs that want you to keep in mind that you do that?
Yeah, so one of the things that I didn't mention here, but is super useful is Google Trends. So again, thinking about what your industry is, right? What is your industry?
So we're in ad tech, and yeah, I do use Google Trends and a few other things. I also use the Express too.
Okay, yeah, so right, like, so what I was going to say was Google Trends is a great way to see like what people are looking for at that moment, right? So you can make some adjustments to your SEO campaigns based on that. Using Google Ads as well is a great idea, right? Because people are searching on Google.
Yeah.
Google wants to make that money, so making sure that your ads are there as well will help boost that. Something that isn't directly related to search engine optimization, but is something that could be helpful for any of you, is something called Help a Reporter Out, HARO, HARO, right? So you can see what is out in the industry that people are looking to write about, that you could be a source for them on, because then that would help, whatever they write would help your SEO as well. I'd also say, that organic content, right? So if you have a LinkedIn that you can be posting things to as well as your website, to get that number up, so that when, someone is looking for this term, it's not just one place, but you have it in multiple places that is all leading. Those are some of the things off the top of my head. Do you have a question?
So during say early days of a B2B company, it's generally quite hard to find decision makers. And while LinkedIn is a great source, are there anything beyond say me going to their post or me actually making an effort to get in contact with them that I can do? So in terms of content, there's generally a lot of content for that market already that's available. And I've seen that not to be a great, there's some great ways, but not great, but something else other than say content marketing.
Yeah.
I should be looking at.
So InMail on LinkedIn, they say is pretty useful, is pretty impactful for that sort of thing. So you can create InMail ad campaigns where you would say, okay, I only want this to go to people in X industry who have the title of this or above, right? And then it's a message to them versus an ad or a post. We did something like that here at Carnegie Mellon when we were doing the Farm View campaign, if anybody remembers that. And it was expensive. It was more expensive than any of our other campaigns. But people who were interacting with it were spending 8 minutes on our website as opposed to like 12 seconds, right? So it gave us a really great ROI. I can look and see if I can think of anything else, because that's a good question. But that if you have the ad dollars to be able to do something like that, that would be my first suggestion.
But also to this point, wouldn't it be a volume game? At that point in time, you're just playing massive volume game, right? Like you, in his case, you try to reach out 1,000, you get like 10 contacts.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
But it's so that the potential of him just burning $2 and
Yeah. Yeah, there certainly is. Again, you could instead, if you'd have to do a little more legwork for it, but you could get a premium account for LinkedIn, and then you could have that message yourself and do very, targeted. But yeah, let me talk to some folks. If you afterwards want to give me your contact information, I'll see if I can find anything more out about that. That's very interesting.
When's a good transition point from handling social media yourself or having like an intern do it for you versus like engaging a larger, or maybe not large, but engaging a third party like social media manager, business for you?
Yeah. Great question. So I started at Carnegie Mellon in 2015, and I was the first full-time social media hire. Before that, it was just, whoever could do it, if it was an intern or whatever it was. I think it depends. What's your business?
I've had other startups, something active right now.
Okay. Okay. So I think it really depends on what you want social to do for you, right? Like if you're using it for active leads, I would say sooner rather than later, have someone who, knows what they're doing. If you're more using it to prove that you're real, right? I would say, you are an intern, but what's important is really sticking to the program, right? So if that means putting in your calendar every Wednesday at 11 o'clock, I'm taking 15 minutes to post on LinkedIn, and every Friday at 2, I'm posting on Twitter, or whatever it is, right? Like making sure that you're being consistent with that. I would also say too, think about if monitoring needs to happen, right? So like if you're in an industry that there could be an issue, whether that's with your company or just the industry as a whole, right? Like if you're in an energy company and there's an oil spill, right? Like you wouldn't want to not have someone actively on social when that's happening. I think too, it's really important to think about what you can manage right now and then how to scale. So if that means you're only on LinkedIn right now, that's okay, as long as you're really there. Like it's better to be in one place than everywhere, but absent.
I have an online question.
Sure.
It's 2 parts, but the first one is, does it help not to like/comment on anything after you push your post? I sometimes get the best engagement if I post right before going to bed.
I would say that that's more when your audience is using whatever platform it is versus what you yourself are doing. on the platform than afterwards. So, if your audience is online at 11 o'clock or whatever time you go to bed, you can schedule things to go out then, right? So that you're getting that, that feedback. Now, with that, I will say, be careful in case there is something that you would need to react to, right? If you're posting something and it could have feedback, good or bad, that you would need to react to, maybe that's not a great time if nobody's going to be looking at it for 8 hours, right? But I would say that is when your audience is there.
And the second question is, do you use or recommend platforms that facilitate posting on multiple platforms? If so, which one do you prefer?
Yeah, so I used Hootsuite when I was here, and I really liked Hootsuite, and it was really good for being able to monitor as well. I don't know if anyone was here when the news broke that the computer science department had helped the FBI break into Tor. If anybody remembers that. So like at that moment, the only thing people were talking about Carnegie Mellon about was Carnegie Mellon and Tor, and Hootsuite allowed me to create a filter for Carnegie Mellon minus Tor. So I was seeing everything else because I was so worried that things were gonna get buried in all of that, right? So I was able to see like what else was going on so it wouldn't get out of hand. So I really like Hootsuite. Usually though, and it's really good for scheduling as well. But you're going to get better engagement when you post natively on the app itself than on something like that. So, it's definitely a time saver. It definitely is nice to have everything in one spot. You can, have a whole calendar, do all sorts of things, but your engagement's going to be better when you're posting natively. Sure.
Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you for coming.
Sure thing. Happy to be here. And like I said, please stay in touch. I'm happy to answer whatever questions I can for you.